Good day, this is Brother Medina for Tuesday, Seventh-day Adventist, and please let us start with a word of prayer. Gracious loving Father, be with us as we enter into this presentation. Bless everyone that pay attention and help them to seek for our freedoms as the world draws closer to an end. In Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen. We want to talk about the recent censorship that have been going on in the tech giants. We want to talk about the censoring of conservative views and the shadow banning and other forms of censorship that are all being done by Google, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all these social media, even Amazon, all these social media have moved together in concert to ban conservative views in the United States and in different parts of the world. They are all socialist leaning. We call them socialists, the godless rabble. They are all communists, commies, and they are seeking to push the New World Order by banning conservative views, which is against the New World Order. There was a time in the past, in ancient history, when you had the index of banned books by the Roman Catholic Church. The Bible was number 1 on that list of banned books, index of banned books. And we all identified this as the worst form of obscurantism and the worst form of anti-freedom. The worst form of keeping information away from people, that they will have their choices. But now we have cyber book burning. Yes, my dear people, like the French Revolution burned the Bible by the thousands and thousands and thousands of books, so we are having an attack on a large scale against books with conservative views, books that identify sodomy as wrong, books that identify transgenderism and drag queen and all these things as wrong, and push Christian views to convert people. All these things are being banned. Good Lord. There is a preacher having a crusade, and he puts up a sign with a Bible. And I am talking about people are against the sign of the Bible. Just because a Bible is on it, they are against the fact that there's a Bible on this sign. So we have a modern form of book burning, but we call it cyber book burning. And while the inquisitors from the Inquisition murdered Christians for their beliefs, these people are murdering you, these modern cyber inquisitors, these leftists, these commies. They are murdering you on the internet by taking down your web pages, taking down anything that will show some form of conservative views against what they believe. Yes, my dear people. In 1 week, they took Alex Jones' pages and information down from Facebook, from Twitter, even one of those phone companies, those big phone companies, removed him. And that phone company that removed him blocked certain of his ability to go through people's phones so that people will access information from Alex Jones' website. But they didn't only ban Alex Jones, they banned other conservative sites, took down their sites, including one run by Ron Paul, ex-senator in the United States government or in the United States Congress, and other websites that they call inimical to their global interests, they have removed. They constantly use terms like, this is hate speech. That's why they're removing your websites. But what does Apple have to do with hate speech in the United States? We know that the United States Supreme Court already stated that hate speech is free speech under the US Constitution. So then why is it that these tech giants are giving the impression that hate speech, which they call hate speech anyhow, is so wrong that they have to remove it? Why are they going against the Constitution of the United States of America? You are a tech giant. You have information platforms. You're supposed to follow the law of the land. You as a tech giant is subject to the law of the land. And you're supposed to follow the law of the land, which states also that there is freedom of expression, freedom of information, and that there is also freedom of speech, and so on. And besides, these freedoms come from God. Why is it that all these tech giants conspired together, breaking antitrust laws in America, to remove somebody from the internet who did no wrong? We are told that what Alex Jones opposed on the internet was some kind of a drag queen display where they had this little boy whining and stripping naked for money. This little boy whining and stripping naked for money, what you call mimicking drag queens, and he was dressed as a drag queen. We are supposed to criticize those things because it is child abuse. Although the state doesn't recognize that as child abuse, but if you teach your child Christian values, they will tell you that is child abuse. But they don't recognize that as child abuse. They don't recognize it as a crime against the child. But it was a crime against the child to have that child doing this. Alex Jones spoke against it. And what did they do? They removed him. Hate speech. And they used the term hate speech plus the term community guidelines, which they have invented, in a nebulous way. So in other words, anything could be against community guidelines. Anything could be against hate speech in their dictionary. And they will remove you despite how many followers you have on social media. Like Alex Jones had more than 3 million and they removed him. CNN rejoiced that he was removed. In fact, we had a Democratic senator calling for the removal of Alex Jones from the internet. This was completely undemocratic, completely anti-Republican, and completely wrong for a senator or a House of Representative member who's supposed to serve the people. But yet they were calling for the removal of Alex Jones. You may not like how he speaks, you may not like his views, but he has a full right to express his views to the public, and he has a full right to express them against the current ideas that are being presented in society about same-sex marriages, about transvestism, about sodomy and other ills. He has the full right to speak against it. But they are using terms like community guidelines and so on to censor you, to practice your cyber book burning from being able to express yourselves. They have lied to us and tell us that it was the Russians that hacked the internet and caused Hillary Clinton to lose the 2016 elections. But they knew very well that it was the internet and what we call independent medias, and the average citizen being an independent media personnel, that presented facts about Hillary Clinton and other important facts about the American political system that caused Donald Trump to win the election, plus the positions that he adopted, which is what the people like. They lied and tell us that it was Russian hacking. But they so know that it wasn't Russian hacking that they are now censoring conservative views in lieu of the midterm elections that is coming up in the United States, which they are afraid to lose, or else they will lose, making America become part of the New World Order. But you see, these people, using nebulous terms like community guidelines, which they can fit anything into, are breaking the law in the United States. Conspiring to remove conservative views in concert is breaking antitrust laws in the United States. They don't even have to follow the EU. They don't have to follow England, who is calling for censorship. They don't have to do that. They can run their policies based upon the laws in the United States, and any country away that don't like it, that's them. And furthermore, you have Democrats, which we usually call Democrats communists. Some people call them demon rats. But you have the Democrats drafting a paper calling for internet censorship Chinese style, as if the United States is a communist nation. With the rise of Antifa and other left-leaning organizations in the United States, other communist organizations, their websites are not being banned, their websites are not being moved, but you find access to conservative websites are being reduced by some 93%. In other words, they are trying to stop people from getting and adopting conservative views, which is what the US Constitution is built upon. These people hate America who are doing that. They hate the US Constitution. They are anti-Republicans. They are communists. But they have control of the social media, that they are now pushing communism all over the country and banning people's use of the internet in some way whatsoever, because they want to push socialist views. Now, all these things have been prophesied to happen in the Bible, in this sense, that there must be a nationalistic and apostate Christian push to take over the political scenes and the political power of America, to bring about the image of the beast and to enforce the mark of the beast. This must happen for that. We are already seeing it happening. This issue with Donald Trump, this issue with a Republican Party largely influenced by the Tea Party, this, while there are many good things they are doing, it is for the sake of making America become great again, that America will have a global influence in getting people to enforce the mark of the beast. So we are in prophecy now. And those who think they can stop it, they cannot stop it. It will go right on through the end. So what we want to do here, we want to show you videos dealing with the internet seeking to what we call control, and the tech giants like Apple, like Google, even Amazon, like Instagram, like YouTube, like Facebook, like Twitter. We want to look at these organizations banning conservative views censoring conservative views in these videos, that you would see what is going on. It's merely the king of the South, communism, in America, fighting against the king of the North, the daughters of Babylon, that is going to be bringing about the mark of the beast. So, the fight on both sides are wrong, but there are good things being propagated by those who are seeking freedoms. Our rights and freedoms were given by God. This is not acknowledged at all by these tech giants. And furthermore, even the mainstream media is in collusion with these tech giants to destroy conservative views and also to ban conservative views for the sake of they themselves controlling the narrative. You must remember that when the mainstream media had control over the narrative, they paved the way for the Iraq war that removed from power the Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein. The mainstream media have been in a large way responsible for a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and fake or false news that has rallied the public to go behind or to support those who were doing policies to push the New World Order. But now the mainstream media can't do it anymore. The MSM can't do it so anymore because of the independent media and because almost every individual who have more access to the facts are like a media personnel. And as a result of that, they can show what is going on. And people all over the world can see it. So what have they decided to do? Censor the internet. Use terms, nebulous terms that they can fit any form of claims that they have to censor the internet. That's what they have done. So we want to show you some of these clips about what has been going on. We want you to see and we want you to recognize that time is late. Jesus is coming soon and you need to prepare for the second coming of Christ. Yes, my dear people. So now let's look at these videos as you see them. May God bless you and help you to be enlightened, to make the right decisions in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Because if we don't stop this Silicon Valley censorship, I won't have a YouTube channel much longer to even post on, or a Facebook page, or maybe even an email address. The disappearance of Alex Jones continues to get more Orwellian. You probably heard that YouTube, Facebook, and iTunes completely wiped out over a decade of his content, banning him from all of those platforms. But the unpersoning of Alex Jones continues. Now his show has been completely removed from the iTunes radio app, from Stitcher, from Spotify. They even banned him from LinkedIn, and MailChimp, the email service company that he uses to send out his email letter, canceled his subscription as well. The outrage mobs continue to bully Instagram and Twitter because those are the only two primary platforms which haven't banned him. And again, if you missed yesterday's video, the final straw for all of this was him criticizing a drag queen festival in his own city that involved children being dressed in drag and doing simulated strip teases. And he said it was an abomination, and that was hate speech to the transgender people. And the other report that they cited was him being critical of the Muslim refugees flooding into Europe and changing the culture there, and they said that that was Islamophobic. And regardless what you think personally of Alex Jones or InfoWars, if this is allowed to stand, it'll be the moment looked back upon in history as the beginning of the end of free speech on the internet. Democrat Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut said, quote, "InfoWars is the tip of a giant iceberg of hate and lies that uses sites like Facebook and YouTube to tear our nation apart. These companies must do more than take down one website. The survival of our democracy depends on it." I'm sorry, Senator, but the survival of the First Amendment depends on them not taking down our sites. I mean, CNN's allowed to have a YouTube channel and a Facebook page, despite being a hate group, and in my opinion, inciting the attempted murder of Steve Scalise and other Republican members of Congress while they were practicing softball. Surprisingly, the InfoWars app has not been banned yet from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Play Store and has surged to the #4 most popular news app, so why don't you go download it and show Alex some support? Equally surprising, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey released a statement yesterday saying that they were not going to suspend Alex from Twitter, saying, quote, "We didn't suspend Alex Jones or InfoWars yesterday. We know that's hard for many, but the reason is simple. He hasn't violated our rules. We'll enforce if he does, and we'll continue to promote a healthy conversational environment by ensuring tweets aren't artificially amplified." He went on to say, "Truth is, we've been terrible at explaining our decisions in the past. We're fixing that. We're going to hold Jones to the same standard we hold to every account, not taking one-off actions to make us feel good in the short term and adding fuel to new conspiracy theories. Oh, it's just a conspiracy theory that your company has a liberal bias and that you have a double standard when it comes to enforcing your terms of service on conservatives." Of course, the snowflakes are furious that he's allowed to keep his Twitter account for now. Twitter users criticized Jack Dorsey for statement about not suspending Alex Jones. They're even trying to get his documentaries censored from Amazon Prime. For those who don't know, earlier in his career, he had produced a bunch of documentaries. Amazon Prime is filled with Alex Jones conspiracy theory videos it calls documentaries, they're saying. I mean, what's next? Is Microsoft going to shut down Alex Jones' laptop because they don't like the content that he's making with their software and violating their terms of service? I mean, we're really not that far from Apple breaking his iPhone or remotely shutting it down and claiming that he's violating their terms of service by the way that he uses their software. Oh wait, what's this? Oh, drag queens are teaching children at local libraries during Drag Queen Story Hour that there's no such thing as boys and girls and that you can just choose your own gender identity. And just remember, you're not allowed to say that this is wrong or you're committing hate speech, and you too may be unpersoned like Alex Jones. Yesterday's video was demonetized, of course, so I submitted it for an appeal, and then after a manual review, they confirmed that it was non-advertiser friendly, which is interesting because I wanted to see how the Young Turks were celebrating Alex Jones being unpersoned, and when I watched their video, it was, of course, monetized and had this ad running in front of it. Because the Young Turks are the liberal darlings of YouTube, they get to operate by a different set of rules. Yesterday, Alex Jones became an unperson, straight out of the plot of George Orwell's 1984, where when someone broke the rules of the power structure, they would have all evidence of their previous existence completely deleted, which is what happened yesterday when YouTube, Facebook, and iTunes completely wiped all the videos, posts, and podcasts from Alex Jones and InfoWars. And regardless what you think of him or InfoWars content, this is the digital equivalent of book burning and sets a horrifying precedent for mass censorship by the big tech companies. They're claiming it's because of hate speech and pointed to several videos, one of which was Jones's commentary on the effect of Muslim refugees flooding into Europe, and said that it was Islamophobic. The other video involved his commentary on a drag queen festival in Austin, Texas, where he lived, which involved children in drag and other activities which I will not mention, and they said that his commentary on that was hateful towards transgender people. CNN has been openly pressuring the big tech companies for months now to censor Alex Jones, and now that they colluded and deleted over a decade of his content all on the same day, CNN still isn't happy, and they're pressuring Apple and Google to delete his app from the App Store now, where people can stream his show. Of course, the Young Turks are allowed on all these platforms, despite their channel literally being named after the group that committed the Armenian genocide, where 1.5 million Armenians were systematically exterminated. In fact, YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki is a big fan of the Young Turks and likes hanging out with them, and tweeted this picture last year thanking Cenk Uygur for coming by the YouTube headquarters. She had a great time. Of course, Facebook and YouTube allow various Antifa groups to have pages and channels and post content, despite literally being a left-wing terrorist organization. WikiLeaks tweeted, quote, "The Empire strikes back. Apple, Spotify, Facebook, and Google YouTube all purge InfoWars Alex Jones. Yes, InfoWars has frequent nonsense, they say, but also a state power critic. Which publisher in the world with millions of subscribers is next to be wiped out for cultural transgression? I mean, what's next? Is Sprint gonna cancel Alex Jones' cell service because they don't like what he talks about on the phone? Or they don't like the group texts that he sends out to his employees? And I guess those who are celebrating Alex being banned because these are private companies which can refuse service to anyone are okay with Christian business owners refusing service to gays because their lifestyle violates the Christian community standards? These Silicon Valley titans have just opened up a Pandora's box, and now Media Matters is calling for Facebook to start deleting climate change denial pages. New York Daily News social justice writer Sean King is saying that President Trump should be deplatformed next. Love him or hate him, Alex is like the canary in the coal mine, and these big tech companies conspiring together to deplatform him on the same day changes everything. You should see all the tweets that I've been getting from liberals hoping that I'm next, because they smell blood in the water, and they're certainly not going to be satisfied with just taking down Alex Jones.
Monitoring who or what people follow online is already having repercussions for one American student. During a college interview, the 17-year-old wasn't asked about his educational success, but why he follows Alex Jones on Twitter, a controversial show host recently banned by several social networks. The student's lawyer gave more details to RT's Neil Harvey.
You represented a college student who wasn't admitted to university because they followed Alex Jones on Twitter. Is that true? And if so, can you tell us more about that?
Sure, I'm happy to explain exactly what happened. What was going on was that during the interview process, the applicant was questioned about the fact that he was following Mr. Jones on Twitter, and the fact that he was looking his stuff up. And that was something that was a challenge during the actual interview process. And then subsequently, the parents of the student reached out to me, and then I reached out to the admissions director of the university and made sure that the situation was resolved in the student's satisfaction. So the problem here was that the fact that the interviewer was actually questioning why this young person was following Mr. Jones and the other types of internet activities that he was partaking in.
Alex Jones is the man behind the alternative news channel InfoWars. He was suspended this week by several social media platforms. They say it's because he spread hate speech and glorified violence. Bradley Shear again says people need to know how social networks use their information.
I'm a big fan of increasing people's personal privacy. And I'm a big fan of not only personal privacy, but freedom of speech. And the problem here is the fact that a lot of people just don't understand how invasive a lot of these tech companies are and how invasive a lot of private institutions are using their technology to try to figure out exactly what your race is, what your religion is, what your political viewpoints are, and then they're taking this information and they're using it against you. So that's why I think people need to better understand these issues and defend themselves against that. And the only way they can do it is if they become more educated about what is actually happening in the world today.
Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey says that the company is rethinking the core functions of the platform, and he just sat down with CNN's Little Bright Stelter to talk about some of the changes they're thinking about making because, well, the Trump train is just too popular, and our messages and our activists are just resonating with too many people. Is your Twitter feed sick? These days, harassment, hate speech, and misinformation are poisoning social media. And Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey seems to know this. He's trying to cure Twitter of these ills, but how? At a rare interview at Twitter's headquarters in San Francisco, I asked him.
We thought, well, people are following you, so we should count them. And then we should put that count right on your profile page. And obviously people care about that, so we should make it big. But that one small choice, and it felt very small at the time and it felt obvious at the time, put an incentive to grow that number. Is that the right attention? Is that the right incentive that we should be driving? I don't think it is today. I don't think it matters as much in context of how many conversations you have or how much you contribute back to the network.
Let me just translate his mumbling for you in case you didn't quite understand it. I have about 330,000 Twitter followers because my commentary spread organically, naturally, through the platform because people liked it and people shared it, and slowly but surely I amassed a pretty sizable following. But that shows that what I say, people like, and that I have a pretty powerful voice. And so they're considering hiding the number of followers that people have so that people can't judge how popular a certain account or certain person or personality is. As you know, not only does the number of total followers indicate to some extent how popular a certain account or person is, but also the engagement of their posts. How many likes, how many retweets, how many responses those tweets get. If you look at the feed of someone like CNN's Chris Cuomo, for example, who has a primetime show on the network, most of his tweets get between 100 and 300 likes. Just looking at a few recent random ones here, this one has 182 likes. Here's a couple more, 279, 136. You get the point. Let's compare that to a few of my most recent tweets, which I posted on my laptop here in my kitchen. Oh wow, that one has 11,000 likes. This one, 1.4 thousand, 2.8, 14,000, 4.5, 1.2, 3.9. You get the point. So nobody cares what CNN's Chris Cuomo is tweeting about, and fewer people care what little Brian Stelter is tweeting. Here, he just said his brand new newsletter is out, and 15 people liked it. Here's a clip from his show yesterday, 130 likes. Another tweet from him, 168 likes. You get the point. We're crushing them. Which is why Jack Dorsey admitted in his interview with Brian that they're considering hiding the follower counts and even removing the like button.
What is the timeline for re-examining how you show follower counts or the use of the like button?
You know, we're looking and thinking about all these things right now. We've definitely had conversations about them.
But would you say, like, by the end of the year, there's going to be those fundamental changes to Twitter?
I worry about a time frame like that because we also need to take into consideration we're a small company.
A small company? Hey, Jack, that's funny because Forbes has your personal net worth at over $5 billion. Do you guys remember about 10 years ago when a bunch of celebrities like Ashton Kutcher, Oprah Winfrey, Britney Spears, and others were making headlines because they were having a contest to see who could get to 1 million Twitter followers first? It's not that Twitter was this organically amazing new social media service. Its popularity was astroturfed and funded by big money in Silicon Valley to make it one of the mainstream social media services. And now, because ordinary people like you and me have been dominating on these platforms and crushing the mainstream media, they're scrambling to try to shut us down.
Evangelist Greg Laurie was forced to take down a series of billboards depicting him holding a Bible. The billboards were used as ads for his upcoming Harvest outreach. Joining me now to discuss this is John Collins, Executive Director of Harvest. Welcome, John.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
First of all, John, tell us about the billboards and why Harvest wanted to put them up.
Well, every year, we've been doing this crusade for 29 years. And so we meet in Anaheim Stadium. We have somewhere around 100,000 people that will come out over the course of the weekend. And Pastor Greg Laurie will give a very simple gospel message. And we'll see 8 or 9 or sometimes 10,000 people make a profession of faith in Christ. So leading into that, we take out ads with billboards. We put bumper stickers on thousands of cars that people lend us their bumpers. And we have ads in bus shelters and wherever we can. And this year we decided to take out some ads in one of the cultural centers of Orange County, Fashion Island, and take out ads and put big banners in the mall where a lot of people congregate.
Wow. And apparently people complained about the billboards. Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, initially the billboard had a picture of Pastor Greg holding up a Bible, and it didn't say Bible on it, just a black book actually, and I don't know if you can actually see that, but that's what the image was. So it wasn't overtly religious or anything. It was just kind of a throwback, if you would, to how Billy Graham used to advertise. And, you know, our authority comes from the Word of God. And so apparently people saw that and took offense to assuming it was a Bible. And so they asked us if we would change the ad. And so we wanted to comply. And so we just submitted something that just simply said Harvest and had some of the musical artists that are going to be with us on the poster and or on the banner, and submitted that. But then we were told that they decided they didn't want to have any of the banners up in the mall, and so we were asked to take them down, and they refunded our money.
It's amazing that even after you made the changes, you know, it wasn't enough, and then they said, we're just going to remove them altogether.
All right, so you know how CNN has panels sometimes where they have Trump supporters on, and they ask Trump supporters how they think Trump's doing with the economy, if they regret their vote for Trump and things like that. Well, they had another panel like this, except this time they planted a guy who was always against Trump, who's a devout leftist, far-left socialist, always hated Trump. And the reason why we know this is because we have people who know this guy, who's seen his posts from the past, who has seen some of the videos that he has posted from the past, and know that this guy never ever voted for Trump, but yet CNN planted this guy purposely to kind of portray him as like this Trump voter that completely regrets his decision voting for Trump. And I'm going to bring you this evidence today, but also Arthur Schapper was someone else who they picked for this panel. And as you know, he's been on our channel quite a bit, debating different people on different topics. And also, if you've been a longer subscriber, you probably remember us having to go into the thick of things in Berkeley and rescue him while he was surrounded by this horde of Antifa members spitting on him. That was a pretty intense video. That was from a live stream when we went to Berkeley a couple years back, or almost 2 years back now. But he was on this panel as well, and he knew also right away that this guy was never a Trump voter, and the CNN planted him. Now, this is fake news. This is why they call CNN fake news. And this is, I hope people see this, because the majority of Americans probably think this guy's an actual Trump supporter or was a Trump voter. He never voted for Trump. This is clear and obvious to the people who actually know this guy, who have seen his posts that I have screenshotted and some of the videos that I have saved. But first, let's go to the question by CNN and see his answer.
All right, we are more than 18 months into the Trump presidency, so we thought it would be a good time to check in with Trump voters to see how they're feeling today. I sat down with a panel of people from California, Texas, Ohio, and New York, all of whom voted for Donald Trump. At one time, these folks were all on the same side, excited about this outsider running for president. But as you'll see, times have changed, and today some feel very differently. So here now, our next Pulse of the People. How many of you are still just as excited today as you were on Election Day about President Trump?
Maybe more so.
And how many of you, the rest, would you say that you regret your votes? Raise your hands.
See that guy with the black shirt and blue tie right there? He's the only one that raises his hand saying that he absolutely regrets his vote. He's the one that openly, completely says that he completely regrets his vote. And he goes on to give a reason, and this is the plant by CNN. Let's continue.
Jeremy, what do you regret about your vote?
In my mind, and the way I look at him now, I think he's a monster. I think he's a bigot. I think that he's doing a lot of things to ruin people's lives. I don't think that I think that he's taking this country in the wrong direction, and it's a terrifying time for me.
There you go. He's a bigot. He's a monster. He's taking this country in the wrong direction. He's ruining people's lives. Well, Mr. Jeremy, we know that you never voted for Trump and that CNN picked you to be a plant on this panel. Number one, we know this because of this post where you say that you're a socialist. And also from this post where you talked about the Las Vegas shooting and how we should be banning firearms.
I'm not talking about hunting rifles, even though, I mean, if I had to vote for them to be banned, absolutely. The guy that killed the 50 and the son killed Christina Grimmie, if they did not have access to those weapons, all of those people would still be alive. It has nothing to do with terrorism. It has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with the fact that they were able to have those. Combat weapons should be just as hard, if not harder, to get than illegal drugs. If anybody that I'm speaking to now, that's supposedly one of my friends, supports anyone being able to own a weapon like that, please remove yourself. I ask you kindly. I am disgusted and appalled by it, but that's your choice. But I will not associate myself with people like that.
All right, so typical leftist, typical far-left socialist, as his post said on his Facebook page. Now, he also locked down his Twitter because people were figuring out who he really was. People have come out who've known this guy and said that this guy was never a Trump supporter. This guy never voted for Trump. He's a far-left socialist. He hates Trump. He hates guns, as you can see there. He doesn't, according to his video there, you can see, and according to some of the people that I've talked to, that know this guy, or have known this guy, or have encountered this guy. And also, he talked about the Orlando shooting that happened. Remember the nightclub where the Islamic terrorist walked into a nightclub and shot 50 people. He talked about that as well, and also talked about having access to weapons. Here is that clip now.
I do not believe that it was an Islamic terrorist act. And everybody that's trying to say it was just wants to mask the fact that had he not been able to get access to those weapons, those people would still be alive. Had the murderer who killed Christina Grimmie had not access to his weapon, she would still be alive. It makes me disgusted at the majority of this country, but then what can I expect anything less from, a majority of half the population nominating a person like Donald Trump? Anything less from, a majority of half the population nominating a person like Donald Trump,
Yeah, so this guy never voted for Trump. Nice try, CNN. Nice try picking this guy, planting this guy. Nice job trying to pull the wool over the eyes of the American people and planting this guy within this panel as the guy who regrets his vote for Trump. This is why people call you fake news. This is why, if anyone should be banned, I don't think anyone should be banned, but if anyone were to be banned for fake news or spreading conspiracy theories or something like that, it should be you. It should be CNN. Because you have retracted more stories than even Fox News does, and I call them propaganda as well. How's that black hole doing that Don Lemon said swallowed that airplane that one time? I mean, you guys talk about Alex Jones spreading conspiracy theories, but you have one of your main pundits talking about black holes swallowing airplanes. And now you're planting a guy who you try to pass off as a previous Trump supporter who regrets his vote, but yet come to find out he's a far-left socialist who hate guns and always hated Trump, according to the people that we've talked to, and seemingly from the posts on his Facebook page.
Those were all Trump voters.
I have to say, I find it fascinating when you bring these people together, and we talk about the phenomenon in the country right now where the president's approval rating, despite a booming economy, has a ceiling at 42 to 45%. What you see there is the ceiling. You see that even some people who voted for Donald Trump will not support him because of the policy.
After being called out for citing anonymous sources who claim they were misquoted, CNN is now in the spotlight for its low ratings. RT's Rachel Blevins has the story.
The latest cable ratings are here, and despite proudly broadcasting the slogan of the most trusted name in news, CNN is still behind a number of networks, including HGTV and the History Channel. In fact, CNN did not even make the top 5, and it instead came in 7th in primetime ratings behind both Fox News and MSNBC. CNN has made a name for itself with hosts such as Anderson Cooper and Chris Cuomo, who are paid multi-million-dollar salaries. But when it comes to ratings, the public would rather watch shows that teach them tips and tricks to improve their home on HGTV, or they would rather be entertained by shows about alien conspiracy theories on the History Channel. Yet even though CNN's ratings appear low in comparison with other cable networks, Forbes noted that Nielsen stats show CNN's ratings were actually the second highest they have been in the network's overall history, but that is still not enough. CNN is still lagging significantly behind Fox News, which is holding strong at #1 for the 200th month in a row. When compared, Fox News has more than 1 million primetime viewers more than CNN, and this could be attributed to the fact that CNN has been accused of deceiving the public by staging fake protests and falsifying reports by misusing anonymous sources. While the latest ratings may not indicate that the public has had enough of the mainstream media right now, they do show that the majority of Americans would rather watch Ancient Aliens than CNN.
CNN is under fire after it refused to retract a breaking news story on collusion between Donald Trump and Russia. That's despite the news channel's source publicly withdrawing a significant claim the whole story was based on. Well, here in the studio with me is RT's Ilya Petrenko to give us some more details on this. How does this work exactly? Why has the network been standing by the story?
Well, Nikki, this is a special one, and I'm here to share with you some of my observations for how things are done when it comes to some media organizations across the Atlantic. As you've said, CNN in particular. We've gotten used to the media sometimes running sensational stories because a number of anonymous sources tell them this or that. But my question to you is, what if the anonymous source reveals his identity and says that his story is not true, or that he has made several mistakes? Perhaps you will expect these people to take a step back, maybe consider some skepticism, publish a correction, or take the story down altogether. Not if you're CNN.
Sources with knowledge tell myself and Carl that Michael Cohen claims that then-candidate Donald Trump knew in advance about the June 2016 meeting in Trump Tower. Crucially, these sources tell us that Cohen is willing to make that assertion to the special counsel Robert Mueller.
So, Nikki, this was part of their original story from a month ago, and back then the sensation was that Donald Trump's former lawyer, according to CNN, will definitely tell the investigators that Mr. Trump had known about this infamous Trump Tower sit-down featuring his son and the Russian. It counted for a sensation because many people in that case would see this as solid evidence that the collusion had taken place. And a few weeks later, the man called Lanny Davis, who is the attorney of Michael Cohen, he comes out and says that he was actually the source of CNN. That's A. Then B, he's made a mistake, and C, his insight into the story, it's of course very tricky, was misinterpreted, and he eventually even went on air. He went to one of the CNN studios to tell people that.
Let's talk about the social media giant's Plantation. Do you know what the top 10 YouTube channels are? In the number 3 spot is Ryan Toy Review, and with only 1,109 total videos ever produced, Ryan's channel has 23,697,000,000 views, earning him more than $11 million per year, according to Business Insider. He's 7. Meanwhile, YouTube, like Twitter, Apple, and Facebook, are now actively, overtly attacking any speech with which they disagree and labeling it hate speech. And they are censoring and terminating accounts across multiple platforms, as they just did to Alex Jones, in a coordinated move all in one day, which by nature suggests strongly that these companies all conspired together to do it on the same day. But if you cover the facts of such collusion, they will label you a conspiracy theorist and target your channel for termination, or shadow ban your channel, as I provided evidence that YouTube is doing to my SGT report channels in my last video.
When I am on YouTube, the YouTube app on my phone, when I press your channel there, there's no videos on the backup channel. I can try to refresh it. There's no videos. And now if I go to your full channel, the last video on there is from 2 weeks ago.
Specifically in my case, my videos are not showing up for mobile users who utilize the YouTube app on their phone. And since more than 70% of all video content is screened on mobile devices, according to Small Biz Trends, and since the YouTube app is the #1 video streaming app in the world, even beating out Netflix for total time spent watching, you can see how YouTube has cut my average video view count by more than half with this type of shadow banning. But back to the collusion by Silicon Valley tech giants to execute Alex Jones from the public square. The accusations of hate speech as justification for censorship are as erroneous as they are unconstitutional, as Peter Lavelle explains.
First of all, hate speech. It is not illegal in the United States. Hello, everyone. All of these companies are domiciled in the United States. The Supreme Court has ruled. You hear it all the time in liberal media. That's hate speech. That's hate. You can call it what you want, but it's not illegal, and the Supreme Court has ruled on this.
This is the United States, not the EU. We have a Constitution, a Bill of Rights, and a First Amendment. And someone may want to point that out to liberal idiot Chris Murphy in Connecticut, who tweeted on August 6th, InfoWars is the tip of a giant iceberg of hate and lies that uses sites like Facebook and YouTube to tear our nation apart. These companies must do more than take down one website. The survival of our democracy depends on it. Clearly, Chris Murphy is not fit to be a United States Senator, because it's clear he doesn't understand the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, nor does he understand that we don't have a democracy, we have a republic, if we can keep it safe from vipers like him. After all, this is the United States, not the EU. This blatant, overt, collusion-riddled conspiracy to target and censor or outright ban conservative speech, as now forever exemplified by Alex Jones being deplatformed by YouTube, Facebook, and Apple, has sent tidal waves throughout the alternative news media space and across the country. And frankly, what the tech giants in Silicon Valley are attempting to do is kill off the very voices that have made the biggest impacts in heading off the New World Order globalist plans for open borders, Marxism, and UN Agenda 21 policies.
Bay Area tech giants are taking action against conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. YouTube, Facebook, and Apple have taken down InfoWar posts and podcasts. But now some are questioning whether the tech companies may be infringing on freedom of expression. Susie Steimley takes a look at the debate.
They staged Sandy Hook. The evidence is just overwhelming.
Conspiracy theorist Alex Jones is calling on people from all corners of the internet to fight the big tech companies who banned him today.
Apple, Facebook, Spotify, and YouTube all completely banned InfoWars within 12 hours of each other, clearly suggesting big tech collusion.
President Trump is hitting the fake news harder than he ever has before. You should have heard his speech last night in Evansville, Indiana. President Trump is hitting the tech giants harder than ever before, saying that they are skating on thin ice, they're flirting with antitrust law violations, and they're not going to censor free speech in this country. But that's not stopping them, is it? No, it's not. No, it's not. In fact, they keep doing it. In fact, I'm working on getting guests all lined up. I can't even believe it, man. New people are telling me they're getting blocked every day. Every day. You get people getting blocked for sharing FDA.gov documents talking about vaccines. They get blocked for sharing actual government documents. Will Johnson got blocked off Facebook. He's coming on at 12:30. You won't believe why. Fulcrum News, David Seaman, they're banished. They're gone. The list just goes on and on and on. Of course, Alex Jones, myself, David Knight, Roger Stone, Milo Yiannopoulos, and on and on, and Diamond and Silk, and Ron DeSantis, and Devin Nunes, and Jim Jordan. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. But you've got death threats to Trump every day. I get threats every day. Roger Stone gets threats. Alex Jones gets threats. I mean, we get threats every day. We don't even cover it. Paul Joseph Watson, I don't even cover it. But they're allowed to exist. I covered yesterday the ACLU attorney certified by Twitter says, you know, F white people. White people are bad. Yeah, that doesn't violate Twitter's terms of service. Oh, but if a white conservative said black people were bad, yeah, kick them off immediately. Again, it's a double standard. And they say, oh, it's hate speech. This is not about hate speech, folks. This is 110% about political speech. This is 110% about trying to move the Overton window, confirm their false consensus that there's a blue wave coming and everybody hates Trump, and it couldn't be more opposite the reality of the situation. No, Trump is probably the most popular president ever. Yeah. No, the blue wave is not even a splash. And so they don't want you to know what's actually going on. This is from The Hill. Trump says to Google, Facebook, Amazon, they may be in a very possible antitrust situation. Oh, they are. Trump has even said it's illegal, folks. They're playing chicken with Trump. Do you understand how everything comes down to these midterms in 67 days? See, the tech giants think they can get away with this because they're actually getting high on their own excrement. I mean, I'm sorry to give you a kind of disgusting analogy here, but they're literally getting high off of their own feces, folks. They're crapping in their own hands and getting high off the fumes. They really think a blue wave is coming, so they're doubling down on the censorship, and then they think that when the blue wave comes, they'll impeach Trump, and they won't be under threat anymore of looking at antitrust lawsuit violations. But guess what? The blue wave's not coming. Hillary didn't get elected. You're all high off the fumes of your own crap. So double down on the censorship, double down on your belief that there's a blue wave coming, and watch the red wave drown you. That's what's going to happen, and Trump is going to hit you with every antitrust lawsuit in the books if you don't cut this out before the midterms, which you're still going to lose. They don't get it. Folks, they already rigged. They rigged the 2016 presidential elections. Do you understand this? They already censored conservatives on social media. They were already censoring Alex Jones. They just didn't delete him. So even though they already rigged social media, they already rigged the elections in 2016, they still lost. And so now they're doubling down. They're doubling down on the fake news. They're doubling down on the censorship on social media, and it's not going to work. You know what happens when you double zero? You still get zero.
Dozens of employees at Facebook unite to challenge its intolerant liberal culture. The post went up quietly on Facebook's internal message board last week, titled, "We have a problem with political diversity." It quickly took off inside the social network. "We are a political monoculture that's intolerant of other views," Brian Amerige, a senior Facebook engineer, wrote in the post, which was obtained by the New York Times. "We claim to welcome all perspectives, but are quick to attack, often in mobs, anyone who presents a view that appears to be in opposition to left-leaning ideology." Since the post went up, more than 100 Facebook employees joined him to form an online group called Facebookers for Political Diversity, according to two people who have viewed the group's page but were not authorized to speak publicly, meaning employees of Facebook who are sick of their liberalism. The aim of the initiative, according to the memo, is to create a space for ideological diversity within the company. Meanwhile, President Trump's not even halfway through his first term in office, but CNN is fantasizing about what the country's going to be like when he's no longer the president. How to prepare for ex-President Trump, they say. No one knows how Trump will leave the Oval Office. Maybe he'll resign. Maybe he'll be impeached. Maybe he'll be voted out in November 2020. However he becomes an ex-president, it's impossible to imagine Trump following in Richard Nixon's post-presidency footsteps, one that literally traversed empty beaches in a solitary existence. It goes on to detail concerns that when he's no longer president at some point in the future, that he's not going to be quiet. Imagine ex-President Trump tweeting out real-time commentary on every move his successor makes. Imagine him continuing to fire up crowds at his campaign-style rallies he hasn't stopped doing, even though he's a sitting president. Imagine him starting his own news media empire, just as he apparently planned to do if he lost in 2016. It even says that he will be dangerous. The truth is dangerous, I guess, to those who have built an empire based on a mountain of lies. Here's President Trump speaking the truth last night at his rally in Indiana.
Very importantly, my administration is also standing up for the free speech rights of all Americans, free speech rights. Look at social media. It's a thing called free speech rights. You look at Google, Facebook, Twitter, and other social media giants, and I've made it clear that we as a country cannot tolerate political censorship, blacklisting, and rigged search results. And you know, it can go the other way also. We will not let large corporations silence conservative voices. And it can go the other way too someday. It can play little tricks with them. We're not going to let them control what we can and cannot see, read, and learn from. We can't do that. America is a free country, and we are going to stay always a free country.
President Trump is taking on search engine giant Google and other social media. Tuesday, he tweeted out, quote, Google search results for Trump news shows only the viewing reporting of fake news media. In other words, they have it rigged for me and others so that almost all stories and news is bad. Google responded saying, quote, search is not used to set a political agenda, and we don't bias our results toward any political ideology. Well, joining us with more insights on this is Dan Gaynor. He's Vice President of Business and Culture at the Media Research Center. MRC has done an extensive study on search engine results. So, Dan, is the president right about Google, or is he just blowing smoke?
Well, the president cited a specific example, and I think it's a bad idea to get. He was citing a sort of a non-scientific study, but there have been scientific studies that came up with the results the president would want going back to the 2016 election. The problem you've got is not just the search results. Google, for instance, works with Wikipedia, so it ends up publishing absolutely incorrect information. When you go to its website, it will you get these little mini profiles show up. That's how we found out one member of Congress was allegedly deceased. Hint, he wasn't. And the California Republican Party was accused of being Nazis. Again, no, they're not. But this is what happens when you lie down with dogs, you get up with fleas. And there's a whole series of problems these social media companies have. Since our report, we've been trying to work as head of a coalition of more than 40 organizations. We're trying to work with these companies, these social media giants, Google, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, to try to get them to understand both the concerns and desires of the conservative movement.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Facebook. I know a Facebook engineer is quoted as saying that Facebook is quick to attack, often in mobs, anyone who presents a view that appears to be in opposition to a left-leaning ideology. So what did MRC find out about Facebook?
Well, although Facebook has probably been better than any of the other top tech companies trying to work with the conservative movement. They've brought on Senator John Kyle to do an analysis of how their platform is doing. But at the same time, people keep running into problems. Just recently, Prager, activist mommy, and then even the Washington Post did a story about how they've got this hidden grade for your accuracy. Now, I understand actually YouTube has created this grade because they found people were trying to target certain accounts, a lot of conservative accounts. But again, it's this black box ideology. They don't want to tell you what they're doing. They don't want to show you how they're doing it because they're afraid people will game the system. So what ends up is we don't know whether to trust them or not. And the default, because there's been so many problems.
And I never believed the big bank heads and others and Super Deluxe and the big corporate Time Warner push that humanity was really just a program and we weren't conscious and this wasn't real. But when I saw the New York Times and a bunch of other publications, and then I learned from New York Times sources, this was planned actually a week ago, to shut InfoWars down as the precedent for the purge. I'm like, is this a video game? Am I like an alien on some space station or some other dimension, and I'm playing this game where I'm this humanoid on Earth, and I'm trying to lead the rebellion for freedom and trying to stand up against eugenics, and there's this big social network called Facebook, and the head of it is having meetings with Tim Cook of Apple and with the head of Google and Alphabet. No, that's not what's happening. This is the real world, but it gets a little weird at this point. I woke up at like 5 a.m. on Monday morning, like I normally do, and there was all these messages just pouring in. What's your response to being banned off Facebook and off Apple and off their subsidiary iTunes and off of YouTube? And I'm just sitting there going, what the hell's going on here? And then today, 5 days later, I am reading the news articles where they say Tim Cook met Sunday night with Zuckerberg. And get this, Zuckerberg decided that I wanted to be banned. We were already shadow banned. We were already couldn't reach anybody anyways. I just wasn't going to stop what I was doing. I wasn't trying to be banned, but if you throw in that briar patch, fine. But Zuckerberg telling the New York Times, oh, Jones wanted to be banned, like everybody else you're banning that's pro-America or free market or Christian or doesn't like Muslims putting burqas on people and cutting little girls' genitals off. So I love like, oh, I wanted to be executed. And then we only had one strike on YouTube, but they still ban us and then say no appeal. So, Pacific, Tim Cook sends Zuckerberg scrambling. And then it breaks it all down. And then you got CNN with no ratings, no support. Famous liars running around saying, take us off the apps because we're number one. Imagine the average American or anybody going, well, InfoWars is number one on Android and iPhone. So obviously, the people don't know what they want. Let's ban it immediately. As if I, at the end of the day, like want some social score where, oh, I'm number one. No, it's that you'd ban something that's number one. So the article's titled, Facebook Banned InfoWars, Now What? And it's the New York Times detailing how they met Sunday night to ban me and admit as a combine. And then Zuckerberg says he called me a sociopathic, genetically engineered android, which was clearly satire. I was talking about replicants in that rant like 3 months ago. And Zuckerberg does look like a space alien. I look like a sea captain. I mean, it's not like he's a freaking public figure worth $88 billion, man. It's like David Hogg's this big anti-gun spokesman. He's in a man's world. Jesus, he's in a public figure world. I don't think it's David Hogg. I think the Parkland shooting happened. I never said he was a crisis actor. I said he's on the drama club, a well-spoken, good-looking young man who's anti-gun. Out of 3,000 students, 4 chosen to be anti-gun. That's what I said. I didn't say they didn't die. But the left is so into fraud, they just keep saying it because they think it gives them leverage because I'm upset about it. That's not how it works. So it's reached Twilight Zone proportions where I'm reading literally so many news articles, I can't keep track. Thousands a day, hundreds I look at. And they're saying Zuckerberg met in secret with the head of Apple and Google and decided to ban me on Sunday night. So, Infowars.com story that boils it all down with links to it. Unlike the New York Times or Washington Post, when we say something, we link to the video or the audio or the text. Confirm, Mark Zuckerberg personally made decision to ban Infowars. Billionaires now deciding what you see and read. And then he goes on to say he thinks Jones personally called him a sociopathic android to get banned. Dude, that was like 3-4 months ago. I'm not trying to get banned. I'm not compromising what I stand for and what I do because you're worth $88 million and yeah, I can reach millions of people a day on your platform and it's an amazing platform. I mean, I can't sit there and start compromising. So you're like, oh, Jones is trying to get banned. Yeah, I told Crew about a week and a half ago, I said, I'm not going to stop criticizing Muslim gangs raping women all over Europe or throwing gays off buildings. Not because I'm some bleeding heart liberal. I just believe in freedom. And so I said, I think we'll be banned. So yeah, you do your social engineering through the platform. Hey, don't do this, don't do that. I'm like, well, I'm not going to stop. That doesn't mean I'm trying to get banned. It's just saying I'm not going to submit to what you're doing.
Yes, my dear people, you have seen what we have shown you about these tech giants censoring conservative views. It's going to get worse. But we can almost predict that the Trump administration will do something about this banning of conservative views, which will be the time we have now to preach the everlasting gospel to all the world through the internet and spread the message all over the world. We are looking for that break in freedom before it closes up again. Since the values of communism, which is the values of the New World Order, are bankrupt and they cannot fool people to give people the impression that they care for the public, because communists are mass murderers. They starve people en masse, 7 million in the Ukraine alone, or more than 10 million we have been told, by the communists in Russia. Also, about 5 million in Russia have died from starvation during the era when communism was now being established in Russia and in those areas. Communists are mass murderers. They also are mass censorers. They censor any view that exposes what they're doing. They censor any view that shows the horribleness of their system. And so those who are doing this today on the internet, they as communists are against your very right to life. They would force socialism upon all of us as a New World Order. But we know already from history that is a genocidal doctrine, a genocidal political view, an anti-rights and anti-freedom political view, and we want none of it. However, the Bible does tell us that the New World Order will come into existence in the last 15 days of the Earth's history, and that when this New World Order comes into existence, the Bible already tells us mass murder will take place all over the earth as Jesus Christ is seen coming in power and glory. Yes, my dear people, this is what we are told in the Bible. So, we are asking you, the public, to accept Jesus Christ as your Savior, to receive the truths of the character of Christ, the plan of salvation, the gospel of Christ, which is what we call the plan of salvation, is the gospel of Christ, and this is the character of Christ written out. So we are asking you to accept these truths of Jesus Christ before it is too late. Accept these truths for your change, for your betterment, because the end is coming swiftly. The tech giants and all these communist rabble, they will fight against us, and they know that they will seek to establish the New World Order, communist New World Order, to take over the world. But what will happen to these groups? This large communist group that is going to seek to create the New World Order, the Bible already tells us that they're going to self-destruct. They're going to turn upon themselves and murder themselves out, and at that time, Jesus Christ will be seen coming in the clouds of heaven. So we are coming closer to the end. These events that take place shows us how close to the end we are. And this is why we ask of you to accept Jesus Christ as your Savior. Let Him change you. Let Him justify you. Let Him maintain that justification and sanctification, that your past sins may be blotted out and that you may inherit the kingdom of God. So may God bless you until we meet again. In Jesus' holy name, amen.